Be nice. Actually, you know what's even more important than being nice? Listening to people. If you can hear what people are saying, make sure that you heard them correctly, you'll be able to help address their needs. So listening to people well is, I think, the best skill for getting new clients.
Hello and welcome to the Jumpstart podcast with Jeffalytics. I'm your host, Jeff Sauer. Today, for our 28th episode, we'll talk with Yehoshua Coren, the Chief Ninja over at Analytics Ninja. Yes, I just used the word ninja twice to describe Yehoshua, and during this podcast, you're going to hear how that name and brand came about. You'll also hear how he was able to break into a new industry, the importance of building a personal brand, and what it feels like when a student becomes the master. I first met Yehoshua in Hungary at the Superweek Analytics Conference. We had only really interacted online, but from his Twitter bio and online reputation, he had me expecting this rabbi from Israel, so I wasn't really sure what to expect when I met him. And then when he introduced himself at that day in Hungary, he sounded a lot like Kid from Nebraska. Well, it turns out that both of these personas are true. He is a kid from Nebraska, he is a rabbi in Jerusalem, and he's one of the smartest analytics dudes I've ever met. Yehoshua and I have spent time together several times since that point over the recent years, and I consider him to be a really good friend in the industry. He also knows how to show his friends a good time, and I enjoyed the guided tour he gave me of his favorite spots in Jerusalem when I visited him back in June of this year. So listen up to a conversation of friends talking about the ever-evolving landscape of web analytics, and stay for our conversations about where things will go in the future. So let's talk with Yehoshua Coren. For show notes, visit jeffalytics.com/ninja. Okay, so we're here today with Yehoshua Coren. Yehoshua, thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you, Jeff. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
So let me give you the spiel on the podcast. Basically, I wanted to talk to people who I look up to in the world of marketing and analytics and hear their journey, their story. So it's really for learning and people who are maybe stuck in their careers looking for what's next.
Okay. Well, what if I'm stuck in my career and I want to look for what's next?
Then you should listen to my podcast.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm excited to do this. About 2 months ago, we had a nice dinner together in Jerusalem, and now I want to hear this journey and share it with everybody. So what type of project or what were you working on that made you realize that web analytics was a career for you?
I think to answer that question, I'll share a little bit about kind of how I got started. The first job that I had out of college was working as a recruiter for a post-high school gap year program in Israel. A lot of students will take a year between high school and college to kind of explore. So I did that for about 5 years. And one day, I thought that I went into a contract negotiation to reevaluate kind of where we were at after 5 years. And they told me, no, we're really happy with your work, but we're cutting your job. I lost my job at a whim almost. It was somewhat unexpected. So I was sort of floored. I didn't know what to do. I was taking a bus home and I bumped into a friend of mine who is in e-commerce. And he says, "Hey, come work for me." I said, okay, because I really knew zero about e-commerce. I was into technology and I was familiar with the web, but I didn't know much about it's like, well, what will I be doing? He's like, oh, I don't know. That's secondary. I look for good people. You know, your exact skill set, it doesn't mean so much. I said, okay. It's like, when do I start? He's like, well, I'm going to be on vacation. Send me an email. Tell me when you want to start. It's like amazing. I was out of a job literally for about 20 minutes, about the length of my bus ride home. And I got home. I told my wife. She's like, oh, you lost your job? I was like, yeah, but I got one again. She's like, when? I was like, on the way home. And so I started with him later on that fall. That was in 2007. And first he had me start to work on SEO. So what was SEO in 2007? It was link building. So it was like going onto forums and trying to buy links. And it's just like, I was like, I don't know, man. This doesn't seem kind of what I'm interested in. He's like, okay, sure. Why don't we try you on PPC? Write some AdWords ads. I started learning about AdWords, and it made more sense to me. It was kind of more numbers, I had a little bit more control over exactly what was going on. So I liked PPC. And so I became kind of the in-house PPC guy. But
Mm-hmm.
if you recall, in 2007, that was like one of the major version launches of Google Analytics. Right, Google Analytics, I think, officially launched in 2005, but like the first big update was in 2007. And I had heard about that update online, and I was like, did you know that you can use this software to track your AdWords performance, including like e-commerce sales? Because they actually had a pretty nice, sophisticated in-house system with custom tagging that would go into their own database to measure performance from AdWords. And it worked for what they were doing, but wasn't Google Analytics. You know what I mean? It didn't have the interface. It didn't have the ability to do the type segmentation as quickly. It was just a database with their internal URL parameter tagging. Mm-hmm. So I said, go for it. If you think that this analytics thing is going to work, you have my full thumbs up. So I started just playing around with it and really loving it. And within, let's say, 6 months, I really gained some strength with it, and we were making some good movement with it, with this PPC. One of the guys I was working with at the company had heard of another opportunity, this time for a B2B furniture company. And that was basically replacing their whole marketing department. So I ended up moving. I ended up moving positions because this better opportunity came along. With the blessing from my friend, he said, "Yeah, this is going to be good for you. Go for it." And so from then, it was a much bigger company, and I had a lot of support to explore and learn. Right. So first of all, I was really focused on PPC there. They had a terrible PPC program. Mainly, there was a whole team out of a non-English speaking country who was managing English PPC. Oh. And so the keyword matching didn't quite work, and the ads didn't work. The company sells office furniture and school furniture, but to have a broad match of the word chair, just didn't work. So it was a godsend for me, because I could come in and I saved them $400,000 of wasted spend within a 12-month period.
Nice.
Right?
Yeah.
Which then continued to, that's every year, meaning they were just blowing through cash. And so it was great. So I came in and had this huge win. But because there was such a big win on the PPC front, they were like, you got Midas touch, man. Go for it, whatever you want to do. And that gave me some freedom to invest in tools and to try a bunch of new things. So we were working on things like phone tracking, and anytime that I want to test out new analytics tools, I could go forward and do that.
Nice.
And so it really, also because we saw the gains in the PPC, I got to focus more on kind of where my heart was, and that was Google Analytics. And that continued really through, let's say, the end of, 2009, 2010, when I was still working with them. At that time, I was starting to feel a little bit of the itch to kind of go out on my own. And I was interested in the industry. I was reading a lot of blogs back then, and I really felt that the level of communication, in terms of pure communication on blogs, within blog comments, was at such a high level. It's something that I really am nostalgic for now. I really miss. I go back. Sometimes I'll do searches and I'll go back and I'll read blog posts from 2008 and 2009 on, let's say, Avinash's blog, which are just great communication happening in those comments. Same thing in Lunametrics had a great blog, ROI Revolution. Really, really good blogs. And at that point, I was really starting to feel more of a part of the industry, even though I had my voice. Yep. So I started my blog. Nice. I started my blog with an idea of just being an industry voice as well. Yeah. I also thought that would be good for SEO in case one day I wanted to monetize and do a business. Yep. And that turned out to be a very smart move. So I started the blog, and I started getting comments and links, and things began to create a name for myself within the analytics community. When I was working as this recruiter for that post-high school year program that I told you about, there was a lot of marketing there. right? My marketing was to 18-year-olds. And so I had to sort of put myself in kind of the mindset like, well, how am I supposed to reach, a 17-year-old or an 18-year-old and speak to their parents in terms of having them make an important life decision. Where do I want to spend my gap year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of that actually was very web related as well, right? And this was, let's say, between 2002 to 2007.
Yep.
So I was like, well, how am I supposed to reach, a 17-year-old? I was like, well, they're probably online. They're probably blogging. So I started a blog for the program, which they didn't have. I started a podcast, newsletters, and just trying to get the message out through. That was my job, was reach people.
Yep.
And help them influence their decisions. So that was actually my first go at marketing. So the relationship between marketing and my first go at analytics, which is performance marketing, get people to come join Year in Israel program,
mm-hmm.
right, as our gap year, ended up transitioning into sell cabinet knobs. But ultimately, it's the same sort of thing. I want to say, well, this is what I'm doing. How do I measure if I'm being successful?
Yeah, you hit it on the head. Marketing is simply getting somebody interested in your product or service.
The capability for measurement in the digital environment I found to be really the most exciting thing for me.
Such an interesting and fascinating thing. And so getting back to the career journey, how did this transition happen to becoming the analytics ninja? How did this all come about?
So that's a great question. The analytics ninja thing was just sort of almost playful. It's a term that was coined by Avinash Kaushik, and other people were kind of using it at the time here and there, and just sort of fun speak in the industry. I said, okay, you know what? I'll just choose it because it's not taken in terms of a domain name yet, and I'll brand to it as my first attempt at some sort of branding. Response that I was getting to my blog. Also, the response that I was getting, positive response from people on the Google Analytics forum. Yeah, so the people who were there and answering things, but I started to get a sense for who are the people who really know their stuff, and who are the people out there who don't, and how many tons of people just have tons of questions and are stuck. So at that point, as it was approaching end of 2010, I was like, well, I could turn this into a consultancy. I could turn this into a business because I know the requirements, the types of questions that people are asking and probably willing to pay for answers. I know it. I remember in October, I finally got around to taking the GAIQ, right? The individual qualification exam. I was so worried about it. I was like, oh no. And I finished in 15 minutes. I was like, uh-oh, is that good or bad? And I got 100%. I was like, this is a joke. I was like, if the official exam is just I breezed through it and I didn't even think that it was challenging at all. I was like, that was just a good sign that's well, I believe I know my stuff well enough to offer my services professionally. So I had the blog. And I actually began to have a little beginning of a touch of some reputation. So that was kind of well, I have a bit of a reputation building, and I have some traffic and SEO on the blog. I'll just push the blog into its blog directory, and I'll make the rest of the website actually offer services and portfolio.
Yep.
So I built out that website. I don't think I've changed the website much since then, so it's a little bit stale because I've ended up just kind of getting busier and busier and busier. And with a combination of experience and solid SEO, those and writing and stuff like that, that ended up turning into conferences, and started moving on into the conference scene a little bit more strongly. So I felt that in addition to having knowledge, I felt confident in terms of sharing with people, in terms of the way that I speak and being a good communicator. So all of those things have helped build my business. And then that sort of spread to like getting some enterprise clients. And so even though that we're sort of a small shop here, it doesn't really matter because I'm able to provide high quality consultant services and value to some very large organizations. So that just kind of build on itself. The more successful you can be with the bigger fish, so to speak, means that other fish out there in the sea are like, hey, that dude kind of works with some companies that I've heard those brands, and yeah, okay, we'll work with you too.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm at now. Is there's a lot of demand and a nice range of different companies I've worked with, and I enjoy helping people.
That's great. And so basically the curiosity to help people and then that empathy to like knowing what people like the decision they're making made you in demand at several levels. It's a combination of speaking and just being an expert, and then like you said, just being associated with success can lead to more success. It's really cool to see that.
Yeah, and also my focus in terms of my offerings has changed a little bit, meaning a lot of companies out there of a lot of different sizes just have needs that are like, this is broken, fix this troubleshooting. It's just like kind of what you see happening in the forums of old, or the forums even of today, which I don't read as much. It's like, this is broken, we need to get somebody there to fix it. But my heart has been more about, speaking the language of business. And that's kind of different than something I was doing, let's say 5 years ago. In the past, I'd be like, yeah, I know how to fix cross-domain tracking because it's a real pain in the butt. Remember how hard it was?
Oh, yeah. Super painful. It still is. Still not great, but it's much better now. It's
still not great. Even so, like, it's something that needs to be fixed, and I knew how to fix it really well, and so I could fix it for people. But now it's like, is that really what it's about? Is it, granted, you need proper marketing attribution. So on some level, that is what it's about. But I've gained a vocabulary and just sort of business language along the path of being able to, speak more intelligently about an organization's strategic needs. And that turns into kind of a different scope of project. We're actually looking at helping the company evaluate what are their actual strategic needs and making more high-level recommendations of the way that they should approach their data collection to create a systems technology that can be more valuable to them.
Yeah. It almost sounds like, and I think in the past I've always thought this as well, but you're basically saying if this were my business, this is what I'd do. So I'm going to treat your business like it's my business to set you up for success versus sort of pushing an agenda or something, out of the ordinary or something that they may not need to get something done or to make money off of it. You're saying, hey, if this were my business, I'd do this, and I'm going to treat your business like my business.
Yeah, to a degree. One of the most important aspects of sort of my day-to-day work is understanding the business model. That's something that also comes, I think, with a bit of experience working across many verticals, is just understanding, well, these are the business requirements. So that discovery phase and working with clients is critical to me. I really want to kind of live and breathe, feel the heartbeat of what this business is about, or a particular business unit, and how it relates to other business units within larger organizations. A lot of that also has to do with what is that digital experience about. Using the website and then saying, well, what can we know about that? And once I know that, what sorts of actions would we take? So being able to help them craft questions that I say, if I was in your shoes, here's what the types of questions I would have and would want to answer. Are there other things as well that I'm missing? And, and they would kind of put in their 2 cents, and then I build that data model for the collection and help pass it to their team for work with analysis. Or, in an ideal world, get past that analysis myself. So it's like, then it's great. Then I've like kind of created the building. I've created the framework of the type of data, and then we can go to town on it and make informed decisions.
Yep. Do you find that clients are looking for that, like a trusted advocate, or are they still like wondering how to get their tags in place so they can track the basic things, or is it a little bit of both?
It's both. Depends upon a little bit of the maturity of the organization, as well as their, potential budget that they've set aside. To be very, upfront, I've chosen strategically to have my career focused on Google Analytics. And that is because it has a largest base of users. I think there's something like 30 million websites that are using Google Analytics. And there's some people who know how to use it well, but not 30 million.
Yep.
Right? So that was a strategic move. Why do I bring this up? Because oftentimes they're looking for tactics, and they're looking at tactics without budget, meaning because Google Analytics is free, it's like, well, this stuff should be free.
Yep.
Or not cost very much because there's no software license. So that's why I brought up Google Analytics. So when it comes to the implementation and the data analysis around, analytics data that's Google based, because there's not so much investment, previously in the organization, they're not really prepared to go down that strategic path, because it's like, whoa, that's actually a lot more investment than we thought. I was like, well, it's a lot cheaper than it would be otherwise because you're not paying for a software license.
Yep.
But the people who are making the budgets don't necessarily understand that unless they finally feel that, we actually do have this need. And then they're like, and we can get so much out of this without actually paying for that license yet. So it does span the gamut. There's a lot of tactical stuff that's still required. I was speaking to a lead today, and they're like, well, stuff is broken, and we're going to be launching like a website later, and we probably are going to want some strategy. So I said, okay, good. We have two things here. Like, you need to not have self-referrals, because it doesn't matter, like, what's going on outside of that yet. Let's just fix something that's broken in terms of getting you some basic data that's reliable. And so, but once that's in place, then I always push towards the strategy. And there's different levels of pushback. People are like not ready for it, or they embrace it. So it all depends kind of who the stakeholder is, who's the person being able to make the decision. Oftentimes you see the higher up kind of trash that idea. Like you get somebody in marketing who's speaking the language, and they're like, they love it, they eat it up, and then they ask their boss, and they're like, they call you back and like, sorry, I didn't mean to take so much time of yours. Bye.
Yep. That's always the plight we have as consultants, right? Is getting the right solution out there and trying to fight through bureaucracy and to do what's right when also we're not within that organization. It's always a balancing act.
Yeah, and I do it. I don't have so much patience for it anymore. I'm a little bit tired trying to sell analytics services, to be honest with you. It's like, if you know the value of this, then come talk to me. Yep.
Well, I think that's good. I mean, that's a good way to go is basically, I mean, you've taken us through the evolution of, discovery and excitement and everything to turning it into a business from that and making it a successful business. And then how do you keep on challenging yourself? How do you evolve the business with the technology? How do you evolve the role? How do you keep on finding new services and everything? And that's really the tough part about this digital world, and also the exciting part is that we have to always do something different, because who knows where Google Analytics will be. They could change something and it could make self-refers go away, or any of the tactical stuff around analytics could change. Well, then what do we have left? It's the ability, again, going back to your first job, which is to get people to, to understand and to market the value that you can provide, and to get people interested in what you have to say.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I do have a few questions that I'd like to ask, more like quick question, quick answer type stuff.
Do you have a buzzer? Do I have to buzz in? It's like,
I try to tell people to keep it to a minute, but we'll just see how it goes. So let's just try one of them.
Lightning round.
Yes, lightning round. I might use that soundbite for other people too.
What, me saying lightning round?
You're really good at that. Do you have an actual soundboard, or is that just your voice?
No, I'm totally really good at that. So, really what I would like to do with my life right now is be like the guy who gives commercials. Shalom, higatem le, efes, chamesh, sheva, shesh, chamesh, tesha. My my 9-year-old son is also excellent. He and I will sometimes just mouth jam on trumpets. Okay, lightning round. Let's go, dude. I'm waiting.
Yeah. So 2009, you decided to start a blog, and it made a huge difference. It was really what allowed you to create a persona and a company. If somebody were starting today, is there an equivalent of a blog? Would you recommend that they start a blog or do something else?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say, first of all, blogging, like having a voice, I think is great. I think blogs are still solid. So I wouldn't say anything about blogs that are bad. I think blogging is great. Blog commenting and some forum commenting is also really good. It's another way to get your voice out there. Not in a way that's selling yourself, just in a way that you're participating in conversation and making yourself known as a non-idiot.
Yep.
I think that's the thing. Like if you can say, I'm not a dumbass. That will go a long way in business.
Yeah. And I think actually, as you had said, the Super Week conference, meeting everybody in person, that was one of the first times that I met everybody in person, made a huge difference in my confidence. Like it put a little animation behind that avatar of who we all were. So I think in person is really important as well.
Yeah.
All right. Good. Well, the trumpet sounded, so we'll move on. When you started your own business, what did you think would be super scary, but it ended up being pretty easy in the end?
Not having enough money to pay the bills. That scared me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But how did it become easy then? Did you have clients lined up? What did you do to resolve that?
The jumping off point was leaving the company that I was with, but I had such a great relationship with them, and I didn't really want to leave. I just want to start my own thing. So I said to them, I'm leaving, but I would love to continue to work with you guys. Can we work that out? So they became half of my workload, meaning I cut down my hours with them in half, but I was able to maintain the same rate, the same yearly rate. So that was basically I had my previous salary in pocket, and then could just take on additional stuff on top of it.
Brilliant. That's exactly what everybody should strive to do. That's what I did as well, and I think it's a great way to go.
Lightning round.
Let's see. What did you wish you knew when you got started in the industry of web analytics?
Well, that's a hard question. More background in statistics.
What's a Google Analytics tip that nobody's talking about right now that you wish they would, or that you want to share with us?
Okay. Yeah. I think the biggest tip, I actually shared it not too long ago, is the use of custom metrics as a way of supercharging your event tracking. So events are just counters of interactions. You did this once, you did that once, you did that once, right? If you move those values to a metric, it becomes a number with context. So let's say I'll give an example of enhanced e-commerce has now given product add to carts. It's a metric, right? So that's actually very useful. You can divide the number of add to carts to the number of, let's say, product page views, right? But actually to get the number of product page views, that's also enhanced e-commerce. You'll see like a product view. So those are two numbers that you can then calculate against each other, so you can get like the cart to detail rate. So you can do that with any other sort of interaction with the site, as long as you're counting it, as long as there's something that's going to count those interactions. So an event, all your names for the events are all rows. You want to pivot those so they're in your columns. You want those to be events. So for your top 15, if you're using GA's free version, if your top 15 or 20 events, also have them associated with a custom metric.
Love it. That's a great tip. Do you have any tips for getting new clients? Somebody who's looking to do this business, how do they get new clients?
Be nice. Actually, you know what's even more important than being nice? Listening to people.
Yes.
If you can hear what people are saying, make sure that you heard them correctly, you'll be able to help address their needs. So listening to people well is, I think, the best skill for getting new clients.
Love it.
Lightning round.
Her quote from another podcast guest was that you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them in proportion with each other. I thought that was a really good way to put it. You're buzzing me. That's great. Who's the first person that comes to mind when you hear the word successful?
Jeffalytics.
Ha! Love it. What is the future of web analytics? And this is going to be a wormhole, I know it, but what's the future?
This is a good question. I think the scale of the data sets and the way that algorithms are going to try to interpret and prepare that data for us to make sense of them is going to be the future. Yeah,
I agree. At some point, machines will take over, and the only thing we can do is provide context and provide yeses and nos. Last question then. What advice do you have to a new analyst, somebody just getting started in the industry?
Ask questions. Don't be too embarrassed about asking questions, potentially even stating, hey, I'm just getting started here in this industry, and I liked what you had to say. I have a question about it. Not just be like, I have a problem. Can you fix it for me for free, please? Don't have those sorts of, I deserve this sort of approach, but rather, humility and curiosity. But once you can do that, if you do it, kindly and with humility, you'll, I think, gain from the nice people here in our industry.
There's a little bit of a barrier. You need to understand what's going on. You need to sort of pick your lane and figure out when the right time is to do that. And so, as we both said, we both lurked for several years before we had a voice, and that's all right. That's actually what I would recommend. You don't need to go at it 100% trying to become the expert when you're not even sure if you're ready yet. Listen, read, understand people, and then pick your point in time and then take advantage of it, because the opportunity is there for sure.
And if you'd like to ask Jeff a question, please email him, jeff@jeffalytics.com.
That's a way to reach me. Same with you. That's actually the last thing I wanted to ask is there anything you'd want to promote or anything that you want to share with the listeners, anywhere to find you? We have our show notes on the website, but anything that we should drive your attention to, anything you're working on, anything that excites you?
Come to Israel. Everyone should come visit me in Israel.
I agree with that. You were the best host. I was so happy. It was great.
Yeah, it was totally awesome. I had such a nice time with you.
Great. Well, that's all I have. Anything else you want to add?
Thank you. Big thank you. This was fun. I enjoyed participating on this most prestigious of podcasts.
What a cool story. Yehoshua was a marketer before he even knew what marketing was. After 5 years of helping others decide their future, he chose his future, which is a path as a marketer, analyst, and eventual ninja. So thanks so much, Yehoshua, for sharing such a fun and insightful journey on your path to your success. For show notes and for some of the links that Yehoshua talked about, visit Jeffalytics.com/ninja. Ninja.
Trumpets. Lightning round.
Can you hear me now? Hi, I'm Yehoshua Coren. I work for Analytics Ninja, and I'm so awesome.
Trumpets. Lightning round. Shalom, הגעתם ל-0, 5, 7, 6, 5, 9. אחרי הצליל, נא לשיר הודעה.
Hi, I'm Yehoshua Coren. I work for Analytics Ninja, and I'm so awesome. Can you hear me now?